Absolutely. One of the best intros to a song. And I still think that should have been the first song on the album, but I know why they didn't do that. Dan here with
Steven,
On,
Yesshift,
and we,
R,
Father and
Son. I
and we
thought,
talk about
yeah. We talk about Yes and Yes's members past and present.
and
Sometimes,
related projects and other
yeah,
people they've worked with and things like that.
yeah, the stuff they've worked on beyond Yes, which is the case in this instance. We are talking about a franchise that Trevor Rabin scored, did the music for. Today's the 20th anniversary of the first National Treasure movie, and that was followed by a sequel film, National Treasure Book of Secrets, in 2007.
I don't
And then
remember if I saw the sequel. I don't even remember.
no, yeah, I'm like 90% sure that Alex and I may have seen it with you in the theater.
Okay,
Um,
I remember. I think you're right.
Yeah, and then there's also a TV show which I don't think you've seen. It came out like 2 years ago, National Treasure: Edge of History, and it had a
With
different.
Nicolas Cage?
No, so it had a different cast, but it's in the same universe. It had a couple other actors from the movies who came back as their
Interesting.
characters. Yeah. So, and for what it's worth, I enjoyed the show. It kept my attention. It felt a bit more updated. It talked about immigration and stuff like that. It had a more diverse cast, and the
Interesting.
music,
And I just want
like
to
you
chime
said,
in, Steve.
yeah,
Folks, that's a huge compliment coming from Steve, not because he's a curmudgeon, but he's a movie critic, he's a film critic, TV critic. He knows what he loves, and he can be very critical. So it makes me want to check that out because you
yeah.
like it. And we like a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah, like there are definitely other shows I prefer, but I remember after watching this show thinking to myself, I feel like this is a show that I'm open to rewatching again in its entirety after it's finished. But then I got
Oh,
busy and I just never got around to rewatching the whole
and
thing.
when was it
But
on?
late 2022 to early 2023. It got
Wow.
canceled after a season, so maybe the viewership wasn't up to what they wanted.
Tell
But
me, please, that it's not on Disney Plus.
well, if I what so it is on Disney Plus. They haven't deleted it. Um, so
Because we're canceling Disney. It's just they've raised the price over and over. Maybe we'll just watch that and then that'll be it.
okay, yeah. I mean, at least it's on there because a year and a half ago they deleted some shows, like even their own original content, like the Willow TV series. I thought that was really good. It was a shame that they removed that, and it's a whole
Well, their
thing.
biggest
Like,
bofa, their biggest not faux pas, their biggest screw up was for whatever reason the Dark Crystal
that's
going away.
Netflix.
Oh, okay. Well, Disney should have picked it up.
Well, I don't know. There might be some behind the scenes reason, but whatever.
Yeah.
But that show is still on Netflix. Like this is a huge like staking point for me with streaming services is when they delete shows for like tax write-off purposes or whatever and don't make them available in other places. So
Right.
like the good thing about Dark Crystal and National Treasure is that they're still on those services, but yeah, like that's a whole thing. But yeah, rewatching the first film, well, like I rewatched both of these films, and I thought to myself, I was wondering if there would be this feeling of like, maybe the film looks at American history through rose tinted goggles, but surprisingly, I didn't feel much of that. So I was able to, I feel like the first film is kind of more of like, oh, look at the cool things that they're doing to solve all these different things. And then the second film, I remember preferring the second film as a kid, but when you're a kid, you think um, that some sequels are just automatically better because it's like, oh, it's the new one, it's got to be better. Otherwise, like why wouldn't it? Like
Right.
what would be the point if it isn't? And so
And
I
then
was
you
one
grow up and realize most sequels suck.
right, but I rewatched it and I was like, okay, yeah, I still have that same feeling that this feels better. Like it has the comedic dialogue with Justin Bartha's character, like they did more with him there.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage in the second one got to do more moments where he really Nicolas Cages it up, like all the yelling and funny stuff that he's known for in
Yeah.
other things. And also like the family dynamic, they're trying to clear an ancestor's name, but also there's like the stuff going on with Nick Cage's character's parents who separated and the reasons they separated. So I thought that added a layer to it.
Right.
Um, but yeah, but something I want to ask, I guess I should have asked this at the top, is when did you become aware that Trevor Rabin was doing film scores? Was that something you found out around the time he started, or was it something that happened years later?
I don't think I found out until, and I hope I'm not wrong about this. He did the film score for Con Air, right?
Yeah, he did,
Was
which is
that his
also
first
Nicolas
one or
Cage.
was this?
Well, Con Air was 1997, so that was definitely earlier. I'm
So
trying to look up what his exact first was at the moment.
so that was when I first realized, but the funny thing is somehow I don't remember knowing Trevor did the music for Treasure at the time it came out and we saw it. I think
Right.
we didn't realize or find that out till much, much later, which is weird.
Yeah, I think I might have found out
I
either
usually
before.
watch the credits and stuff, so I'm just surprised I don't remember going, "Oh yeah, I know always knew that." I don't think I always knew that.
No, yeah, I remember when we saw Tarzan in the theater. You had us stay after the credits so you could see that it was Phil Collins who
Right.
contributed to that. But yeah, I think I didn't realize until maybe around the time the second movie was being marketed, and I was browsing, the different websites of the Yes members and alumni, and I saw on Trevor Rabin's website, it said he's done the soundtrack for National Treasure Book of Secrets, and I'm like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I looked it up. So before Con Air, he did a movie called The Glimmer Man,
Huh.
and he did additional music for Fair Game before that, and something called Death of a Snowman in '76.
Oh, wait a sec.
Um,
Was that with
you might be thinking of Jack Frost
yeah,
from the
you're
early
right. Never
'90s,
mind.
which we talked about last year around the holidays. That
Yeah,
was a
that's
fun one.
right.
Um, but yeah, so how, where do you like how often do you listen to film scores is I guess what I'm getting at. Like what's your experience with listening to film scores versus just watching them and hearing the music
I
during the thing?
I don't know if I've ever listened to a film score to listen to the film score without watching the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I've done that, but I do love the music he did for this movie because I think the adventure theme plays right into his wheelhouse of music. Like I mean, the opening track of our show is cinema, and that
Yeah.
I mean, just right there says it all for me. I think it's a big part of his musical sensibilities when it comes to composing and film scoring. So I think he did a great job. I just don't remember that I knew at the time he did it. I think I found out later, but I always loved the music too, and I love the film. It's a good film.
Yeah. It was an interesting time when it came out because you touched on it, the whole adventure thing. The year before this came out, Disney also put out the first Pirates of the Caribbean.
Right.
Um, and I think this might have also been before the Da Vinci Code and those movies came out. Maybe the books were out by then, but yeah, there's something in the air about like movies with like adventure and uncovering like secrets and conspiracies and
Yeah,
stuff
and
like that.
My wife, for those who don't know, Enja loves stuff like that. She loved National Treasure because of what she says were some hidden codes and messages and stuff in there. And I felt the same way I think you did about Da Vinci Code. Did you liked that movie, right?
I remember enjoying it somewhat when I watched it in high school, and I watched the second
But
one around then too. But when I watched the third one, within the last couple years, there was something about the pacing that wasn't really drawing me in. So I'm really not sure where I'd land on the
the
film
first one was the
now.
best.
Yeah, probably. But
Yeah.
yeah, but it's interesting the way they structure those things with the mystery and
Yeah.
stuff, and trying to give the audience the satisfaction of like, wow, we're figuring all this out as they are figuring it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to your point about National Treasure, I think it has aged well. And I think the music has definitely aged well. The soundtrack is still great.
Yeah, like during the chase sequences, like on the first one, there are a couple of tracks called The Chase and Foot Chase, and both of them have like this like intense music, like and like guitar riffs, like or like it goes like real hard and really enhances the scene, like when you see Nick Cage like running through a cemetery or something like that, trying to get away from the
Hmm.
thing. So it really matches that feeling of like
I
you're
love
watching
that
this
scene, by the way,
cool
too.
thing. Yeah.
I have a thing for
Um,
old cemeteries. It's not like in a creepy way. I just find, I don't know what it is, actually. It's not a creepy thing, but I've always been interested in old cemeteries.
yeah, and they do make an interesting like setting and
Yeah.
things too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like this movie, I'm pretty sure I discovered it through my brother Alex. Alex is 4 years older than me. For those not
Four and a
familiar,
half, but who's counting?
right? And I think he might have like rented it at some point. I did not see this one in the
Yeah,
theater.
you were two.
No, I was 10 when this one
No,
came
when
out.
it came out, I mean.
Wait, what?
Wait, oh no, I'm thinking of Con Air. You said was 1997. Yeah, you were 10 when this came out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and it actually came out the same day as the first SpongeBob movie. Funny enough, I did go and see that
Really?
one in the theater. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I'm pretty sure Alex probably rented it or was watching it on TV or something, and
Hmm.
I sort of stumbled in during a scene that I thought was like in the middle of the movie, but on this rewatch, I realized, oh wow, this is like just the second scene of the movie. And then later we saw Book of Secrets together, and yeah, so a funny thing, Alex, for those who don't know, Alex's wife Arlene, my sister-in-law, um, apparently a while ago, she was listening to the National Treasure soundtrack. I guess she enjoys listening to it, and I guess she and Alex were talking about it, and noticed the name Trevor Rabin, and Alex was like, "Oh wait, that's the guy from Yes," and so it was
Yeah.
kind of this funny like back and forth between them, apparently.
Yeah. I think we were talking about that when you and I were out there for Father's Day.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, the idea for this episode and titling it National Trevor, how could we resist that pun?
Right.
I think I came up with it during our trip to San Francisco when we saw Roger and Freya Dean's art exhibit.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and I also like how Trevor is able to include things that adapt to the different settings that they go to. Like on the one for Book of Secrets, there's a track called Spirit of Paris, and there's a bit of accordion on that one. Um, Interestingly, the soundtrack for that second movie is only like 22 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
So, yeah, the first one is like 45 or closer to 45. But that being said, I did not feel like the second movie was lacking in amount of music, and maybe part of that is also helped by the performances of the
Yeah. And the
characters.
dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the TV show, I do like how there are Latin flavors thrown in there as well. You know, again, the whole thing of adapting. There's a song that is sung in Spanish by someone. It's called Duerme
Hmm.
Descansa. That's one that I kind of wish was longer. And I should mention there are also a couple other people who contributed to the show's music. I see Jake Austin Walker is a name. Paul Linford is another one. Um, and yeah, also like some Latin sounding guitar on the theme of that show. So again, you know, when it comes to film scores, I think adaptability is a pretty important component, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to ask the audience to chime in, let us know where you're watching from, but let us know if you have a favorite soundtrack, motion picture soundtrack by Trevor Rabin, and where does National Treasure sit for you as a soundtrack and as a movie if you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, go see it just to hear the music. I know you can just get the soundtrack, but I think at first listen, one should hear the music in context of what's on the screen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I think that that adds value to. I know it's subjective when I say this, but how good it is or how well it fits, and we could all see those things differently. But I think you've got to first experience a motion picture soundtrack with the motion picture. Otherwise, it'd be like listening to a radio show version of just the dialogue with no music, no sound effects or anything. It like wouldn't do anything. You got to see it in full bloom, if you will.
I mean, that's an interesting point. So, I don't know. Like, I gotta ask. So, is that different for concept albums, though? You know, like, should people watch The Wall before listening to The Wall, or
No,
does it depend on like what's made
no, I,
first
I
and
think
what the
that
thing was
should
made
be the
for?
other way around because that's
Okay.
different. That movie was made of the album. The album was not a soundtrack made for the movie. So it's actually
Right.
the opposite. You know, it's different. Just like what was the other one? I just made a note of it today. Quadrophenia. Quadrophenia was an album, and then they made a movie depicting the story of the album by the Who. It wasn't a soundtrack by the Who to the movie Quadrophenia. Same thing as your example.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've probably mentioned this before, but when I watched Quadrophenia, I was kind of surprised it wasn't more like Tommy with like the music all throughout. It was
I,
more,
I was
yeah.
shocked too, and I saw it in theaters when it came out. Like I don't know, I had no idea. I thought it was going to be a movie with the Who. I didn't know it was the story of that album. I thought it was going to be more of a concert film. I mean, I remember the poster had that iconic picture and all of that. I don't remember seeing trailers on TV, but I remember going like maybe 30 minutes in and going, so where are they? And then
Yeah.
realized that it's acting out, the same way that I would be really pleased if The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway finally came out as a film. There is an animated version of it. Did you know that? Have you seen that?
Um, I don't think I
Look
have.
up on YouTube The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway animated, and someone made their own like animation to the
Oh,
movie.
okay.
It's quite interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it does sound like something that could potentially work pretty well in animation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
Check.
I feel like some people are a bit too dismissive of animation, you know.
Yeah, no, I've always loved it. I mean, in this context of fantasy and whatnot, like going back to, when you guys were little, I had the VHS of the original Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, the original that came out in the early to mid 70s. Also, Wizards. I remember Grandma and Grandpa showing me Wizards when it came out when I was a kid. And wow, did that mean something completely different later
Right.
seeing it as a grown up? The whole parody of wow, that was a real head trip that blew my mind. Like, really, this is the same movie I saw as a kid. So I like that kind of stuff a lot. I wish there was more of it. I wish Roger Dean would make a movie of Tales from Topographic Oceans, or or Open Your Eyes, or well, maybe not Open Your, but you know what I mean. You
Yeah,
know,
how would the Open Your Eyes movie be? Would just be the logo for like 2 hours on screen.
but even Relayer, you know, of just
Yeah.
Gates of Delirium, an animated short to Gates or something would be just. I'd love to see his stuff in the context of Yes Music animated.
Right. But yeah, getting back to National Treasure, I mentioned earlier there are those cool moments where you get like the riffs from like the guitar, and sometimes they're I don't remember if this was the show's soundtrack or what the movie's soundtrack, but there was a bit where I was kind of reminded of like that Solly's Beard type of feel, that
Oh,
type of
interesting.
guitar.
I don't remember if that's in the
Like
movie either.
yeah,
Huh.
like not the exact notes, but just that type of
The
guitar
feel.
and feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the movies you also get the the themes going so you kind of feel this sense of in movie scores you get this sense of discovery and exploration and enlightenment whenever you discover something and that type of thing
It's another game of exploration.
yeah and also a memorable theme that pops up now and then like do so
Yeah.
it's cool that you get these memorable music moments throughout these
Like
scores.
callbacks almost.
Yeah,
Yeah. I like it. I want to see it again.
right, yeah.
I
uh,
could not remember when I saw it originally. I asked Enja. So, for those of you watching, I've been with my wife 17 years. Wow, really? And I said, did we see National Treasure together? That's what the show's about that Steve and I are doing. And she said, I don't know. I don't think so. And I said, well, I think I asked you if you wanted to watch it like a couple of years ago when we were trying to think of something to watch. And you said, no, I think it was too much for kids. And she said, I didn't say that. That was your other girlfriend. She said, no, I love, that's when she said, I love the messages in it and the this and that. So I can't remember when I saw it. I don't know if it was when it came out and I saw it in a theater. I don't remember if it was years later on TV. I have no context of that. I don't know why. Because I like the movie. You would think I'd remember.
yeah, yeah. Well, you would have had to have seen it in the 2000s if we saw the second one in the theater with you. Yeah.
Right.
um
So
but
then that answers that as what point in my life that was. Okay.
yeah. um let's see. I
Well, that
think
explains a
it's
lot, actually,
yeah,
including the comment I made. Okay, thanks.
right. So, something that my brother, that Alex always laughs at is the moment in the first movie when, Nicolas Cage's dad, he lectures him. He's like, I had, you had your mother, you had me. What do you have? Him? And he points at his assistant who's
Yeah.
like just grabbed a slice of pizza and looks up.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah,
Him?
it's a little thing that Alex and I like to joke about once in a while.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
just that moment. Which is wild because like I feel like that character, just Riley, Justin Bartha's character, doesn't have as many funny moments in the first one as he does in the second one. He's telling people, "Did you read my book?" and like they haven't read his book and stuff.
Yeah.
He's getting like bad luck and whatnots. But I guess for that first movie, that pizza moment really stands out for us.
Yeah, they didn't really develop the character as much, and he had to kind of blossom from the first two into the second. Like, hey, let's do more with the Riley character this time. There's all this opportunity, which they did a good job of.
Yeah, and the second movie did have the dangling thread regarding a page of a book, and funny enough, the TV show references that dangling thread, but they say that after 15 years they still haven't figured it out, and
Oh,
basically
wow.
it felt so meta because the National Treasure 3 has been in development hell for so long, and like I don't even know if they're still gonna try making one.
Really?
It kind of felt like the TV show was taking their attention, but when I saw that moment in the show, I thought, oh, okay, so they're as they're doing this show, they're hoping that they can still do a third movie. Okay, but now like I don't know what's going on. I don't know like
That's
if
interesting.
when we could get a third one.
Now I have what may be a dumb question if you know the answer, but you know who Nicolas Cage's uncle is, right?
His uncle is
Don't look it up.
his parents' brother.
It's Francis Ford Coppola.
Oh right, yeah, I
Yeah.
remember. Yeah,
And he
one of
changed his name to Cage. And I wonder if Cage is English for Coppola. Let me ask Siri. Hey Siri,
oh my
how
gosh,
do you say
don't ask
Coppola?
her. Don't ask her.
Why?
I have the answer, and I
Oh,
get
okay.
tired of you asking Siri stuff.
She's tired
Um,
of me too.
yeah. I think he may have been inspired by the Marvel character Luke Cage. I remember hearing that,
Oh,
but yeah, I'm like looking it up just to double check. But I do remember hearing that. Okay, so it seems like that might be true, which is funny because he later played a Marvel character, Ghost Rider. That was another interesting one to see in the theater.
yeah. Here's
But
something from Dan DeVos watching on Facebook. He says, never heard of it. We'll have to check it out, then revisit this discussion. Check it out, Dan. Yeah, it is a pretty popular movie, I think, right, Steve?
yeah, I guess I'd say so.
It wasn't a blockbuster, but Nicolas Cage is in it. But Dan, check it out. We'd love to know your thoughts afterward.
Yeah, like both movies definitely made a lot of money, but I kind of feel like I don't know, the vibe that I get with people of my age group is that it's kind of like a cult classic or like a nostalgic thing, and they kind of look back at it with like a nostalgic perception or something. But yeah, I'm not really sure how
Interesting.
popular it is in general. But
Yeah, I don't recall. It's weird. I got these like blank spots of the weirdest things, but then I can remember the weirdest things. I don't understand how that works.
right. But yeah, I was aware of Nicolas Cage's, being Nicholas Coppola initially and that connection. Yeah, I remember reading somewhere that he wanted to be able to like stand on his own and
Yeah,
have people not think it's because, oh, I'm related to this
that's
person.
very respectable.
Yeah. And yeah, some people do that too. And I also have like the album covers, which I
Yeah,
almost forgot to show, and I'll go ahead and do
that's
that.
cool.
So that's the first one, and then got the second one here. One sec. Book of Secrets. I kind of wish the first movie also had a subtitle. Like that happens with movies sometimes. Like they make a first one and they're not sure if there will be a second one, so they don't bother with a subtitle.
Yeah.
Um, so if the first one had a subtitle, I think I would have called it National Treasure Declaration. Um, and
Oh, that's
because it symbolizes like
perfect.
Declaration of Independence, and then it
Yeah.
fits that same rhythm of like Book of Secrets and Edge of History.
Yeah.
But weirdly, the first parts of the Caribbean movie had a subtitle, Curse of the Black Pearl, but before there were any sequels, I think people just referred to it as Pirates of the Caribbean and didn't
Yeah.
really
And I
pay
think
too
they
much attention to
figured
the
that they would
subtitle.
do sequels, right?
Yeah, like after the success of the first one. Um, so
Oh,
yeah,
that's
and that's
great.
the Edge of History soundtrack.
That's the
Yeah.
Aztec pyramid, right? Or is it in
It
Peru?
might
Or
be.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I'd have to refresh myself on some of the locations they go to
Yeah.
in
I want to
that
watch the
one, but
two
I do
movies
remember
again now.
liking. Yeah, I do remember liking some of the character interactions, but I think the show got some mixed reception. But even
Hmm.
so, it was cool that they brought back Trevor for the show. Like
Yeah.
15 years later, they very well could have just gone with someone else, but I feel like they brought him back for that. And if they ever do make a third movie, there's no doubt in my mind that they'd bring him back for that
Yeah.
as
How could they
well.
not?
Right. Um, so do you have anything else to add before we close this out?
No, just other than just talking about it has inspired me to want to watch both of those. And maybe we'll check out the TV show before we pull the plug on Disney.
Right. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. A little something different this time around, film score, which also includes a bit of film discussion. And
Yeah. Different
I'll,
but relevant to the show still.
yeah, and I'll probably do a news episode in a few days. There are a few things I need to catch up on for that
Cool.
first, and we're also working on stuff. But yeah, and we've got the Relayer 50th anniversary coming up, so that'll be
Yeah.
fun to talk about too.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah,
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for watching, folks. You can follow us on Facebook and YouTube and on anchor.fm/yesshift if you just want to do the audio listening. And you can write us at yesshiftpodcast@gmail.com. Suggestions, donations, complaints, whatever you want.
right. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you all soon.
Thanks.